Edward Weevil, Stussy, and Jewelry Bonnie. These three characters all have something in common, and that something is the common DNA they share with another set of three characters: Edward Newgate, Miss Buckingham Stussy, and Charlotte Lynn Lynn. Basically, they're all clones. And not just any clones, but clones of the Rocks pirates. During the time of Mads, there was a secret project in the works to clone the most powerful pirate crew to have ever existed. This project failed, and was subsequently succeeded by the Warlord cloning project that resulted in the Seraphim. Why clone the Rocks pirates, though? This crew that came within a bee's man parts of taking over the entire world. But then again, more concerningly, where are the rest of the clones? Failed or no, is there a Kaido, a Shiki, or even a Rocksteady Beck himself, wandering around just waiting to reveal themselves as the hyper-advanced biological lurking legends? And perhaps even more terrifyingly, are we eventually going to see a modern-day Rocks Pirates reunion? I mean, I say eventually, it's kind of already happening as we speak. Subject number 1, Stussy, a clone of Miss Buckingham Stussy, better known to us as Miss Buckin, or I guess I should say assumed clone, because no one has outright stated that Miss Buckin is actually Miss Buckingham Stussy, but I think we're all clever enough to put this particular puzzle together. It's like the baby toy where you put the triangle in the triangle slot and the square in the square slot and so on and so forth. And in this case, Miss Buckin fits pretty damn well into the Buckingham slot. And you know what else fits perfectly into the Buckingham slot? Whitebeard, allegedly. We'll get to Weevil in a bit though, because there's actually quite a few small connections that I initially missed in regards to Miss Buckin. Because what if I told you that Miss Buckin actually appeared on Wano? You'd probably say something like, "Duh, you're crazy, you clickbaiting internet charlatan." But it's true. In Orochi's flashback, we met an exceptionally intriguing hag named Higurashi, who initially caught our eye by using the Mane Mane no Mi to transform her face into that of Golden Lion Shiki. But what we also did was completely disregard the other face that Higurashi showed us. The one where she turned into this beautiful, young, and at the time, assumedly miscellaneous woman. But this woman is Buckingham Stussy, and Higurashi was almost certainly a member of the Rocks Pirates, or at the very least she sailed with them, possessing connections to Kaido, Shiki, and now Stussy. Which I want to point out because it's just like, at the time I completely disregarded that face. I thought it was Oda just, slapping a random woman on the real meat that is the Shiki, and I should have known better, because Shiki is never the meat. He's more of a side dish. Like fries. I actually think he'd make great fries. But it's also worth noting that on the cover of chapter 1072, we see Caesar holding a sinister and rather fake-looking devil fruit, which may very well be Stussy's ability that's revealed at the end of the same chapter, given that the pattern on the fruit is the same pattern that we find on modern-day Miss Buckin's jacket. Granted, that is exceptionally flimsy evidence, but at the time, replicating Zoans, that was no problem. They did it with Kaido, so why not with Stussy as well? Which currently means that we could have succubuses or succubi floating around in the world. What's the collective noun for a group of succubi? I'm gonna say it's a seduce of succubi. Heading very much in the opposite direction of seduction now, subject number 2 is Edward Weevil, who was designated as a number 2 due to his visual similarity with a number 2. Stussy came out of the clone oven immaculately, but Weevil was either left in for too long or not long enough. I'm not sure which. My bet is still that Weevil is one of the failed clones, perhaps constructed before they really hit that mark with Stussy. But all of a sudden, Weevil's entire story fits perfectly into the Whitebeard slot, because in chapter 802, Miss Buckin declared, "The only son with the blood of Whitebeard, the strongest pirate in the world, is you." And in retrospect, yeah, it is you being him. And of course it is. He is technically Whitebeard's biological family because he is Whitebeard. The only real difference, other than aesthetically and mentally, is that he lacks the Gura Gura no Mi, because at the time the green blood wasn't a thing, and paramecia powers were unable to be replicated. And as for why Buckin claims that he is the son of Whitebeard, well, initially I thought that it would be easier for the world to accept that than say he's a failed clone, but it could also be more sentimental than that. Miss Buckin could be trying to protect Weevil from the truth of his misshapen lab-based origins and want him to live a more normal and socially acceptable life, going on to inherit all of Whitebeard's stuff as may very well be his right. But also there may be some personal motivation for Miss Buckin. She is the self-proclaimed lover of Whitebeard, and she said another very interesting thing in chapter 802. After she announces that Weevil is Whitebeard's biological family, she then declares, "And that makes me the woman Whitebeard loved," which is it's a strange way of putting it. I don't know about you guys, but it really seems like Buckin feels a need to prove something and is using the technicality of taking on the role of Weevil's mother to do so, sort of like a maths equation. Weevil is the son of Father Whitebeard. I, Buckin, am the mother of the son. Therefore, I am the father's one and only true love person. I get the feeling that Whitebeard rejected her and that Buckin's never quite gotten over that, which has now escalated into this wild situation of raising his clone as her son. I also want to throw out there that it could be a more sappy answer as well. Like, say Buckin is awkwardly playing the role of Whitebeard's lover again to protect Weevil from knowing the truth. One Piece does that from time to time, and we have a very similar situation with our next subject. Jewelry Bonnie, who is very potentially a clone of Charlotte Lin Lin. Now, if you've never heard this before, this seems like an outlandish idea, and maybe it is. But more than a decade before all of this clone business became a legitimate possibility, Big Mom and Jewelry Bonnie were connected. What they have in common is that they are both pink-headed voracious eaters as well as lipstick enthusiasts, and in the manga, the two even share the same eye color. This isn't true of the anime, where it was elected, for reasons, to make Bonnie's eyes purple, but whenever Oda colors Bonnie in the manga, which isn't very often at all, she has the same eye color as Big Mom. So that's 3 aesthetic similarities and 1 personality trait. That's not quite enough for me, so it's a good thing we have something else. Jewelry Bonnie's pirate ship, the Jewelry Margarita, looks like it was ripped straight out of Whole Cake Island, being constructed to depict food, which seems to be some sort of unholy combination of cake and or pizza. With all of this in mind, I think it's very easy to forgive theorists who back in the day thought that Bonnie was one of Big Mom's children. And I'm not entirely unconvinced that Oda may not have had that planned at some stage. And once we met all of the Charlotte siblings, this theory then rubber banded in the complete opposite direction, proposing that Bonnie was the grandmother or some kind of ancient old relative of Big Mom. Crazy, utterly crazy. But what we're left with today is just as insane, because Bonnie is having a secret withheld from her, which is definitely pushing me in the direction that Bonnie may also be a clone. And with 2 Rocks Pirates clones already confirmed, I don't think it's at all out of the question to speculate that Jewelry Bonnie could be a clone of Charlotte Lin Lin. Although funnily enough, in her male form, Bonnie looks more like a clone of another emperor, a certain red-haired Shanks, or I guess in this case, pink-haired Shanks. I think the general idea makes sense. There are a few things to work out though, one of which is how Kuma comes into this whole business. Remembering that this whole clone endeavor was part of Dufeld's project, I'm sure that the world government would have been utterly horrified to discover that the Rocks Pirates were being cloned, and Bonnie may have been given to Kuma to keep her safe. It really fits the One Piece theme of found family, because very rarely are biological connections the center of emotion. But it could also explain why Bonnie doesn't take on the characteristics of whatever Kuma's special race is. And then you think back to events like post-war where Sakazuki captured Bonnie, and you begin to understand why he was ever so afraid of her. Because Bonnie holds the potential to become another Charlotte Lin Lin. And this world, quite frankly, does not possess the agricultural infrastructure to feed 2 of those. But there are 2 more things to tackle. One is that Bonnie, whilst very aesthetically similar, has not quite followed the physical path of Big Mom. We've seen an image of Bonnie as a child, and while she is practically inhaling all of the food around her, she does not possess Big Mom's child physique. With modern Bonnie, you can kind of get away with it because, yeah, Big Mom did have her skinny hot phase, but as a child, it's a little bit harder to explain. But a couple of options would be, 1, it's Bonnie's devil fruit. Perhaps she didn't want to look like a rotund pink wrecking ball as a child, and instead chose a distorted future as her permanent form. Or 2, Bonnie is actually a failed clone as well, running with the idea that they were unable to replicate Big Mom's naturally tough body, which may have something to do with the sizing. Other than that, the evidence standing against the Big Mom clone idea is the existence of Dowager Queen Connie, who also seems to possess the genetic ingredients to bake us a delicious Bonnie. This is probably the most difficult to overcome because there's no Occam's razor to rely on. Ideas need to get slightly more convoluted at this point, and I generally don't like that. But for example, perhaps Big Mom herself was originally from the Sorbet Kingdom. She could even have been the daughter of the then monarchy who was dumped on Elbaf by her relatively affluent-looking parents. And thus you maintain the genetic pool, but it also might provide Kuma a reason to raise Bonnie, because she is his family, but like a clone of his great aunt or something. But honestly, the biggest question of this whole exploration remains why? Just why? Why make clones of the crew that almost destabilize the entire planet? Well, this question has already been answered by Vegapunk in chapter 1072. His notes tell us that, even if the world doesn't agree, I know that she is a living, breathing person, a true and undeniable human being. It was a success, I am certain of it, and this is one great step towards the creation of world peace. So the idea here was to take the strongest force that had ever existed in the world, and then use that force to instead protect the world. And I guess also to ensure that they would have some defense in case the Rocks Pirates ever reformed. It's the same theory behind using the warlords to make the Seraphim. The world government is weaponizing the very power they fear, and from Vegapunk's perspective, perspective, this was all done for the sake of peace. I don't think anyone else really shared those ideals. Certainly not the rest of Mads, and certainly not the world government. But to the aubergine scientist's credit, it may have worked. Stussy has recently revealed herself to be an agent of Vegapunk, and therefore also a force of general goodliness. Bonnie is also far more on the good scale than Big Mom ever was, although to be fair, most of that is due to the very naughty Chef Streusen. And as for Weevil, well, he's the most seraphim of all, because he will literally do whatever he's told. With these clones, so far Vegapunk has quite successfully domesticated the Rocks Pirates. But then again, we still have yet to see the other attempts. Given that Kaido was caught and experimented on by Vegapunk, there could have been an attempt to clone him as well. Golden Lion Shiki, meanwhile, was also canonically caught and tossed into Impel Down, so there's an opportunity for clonage lurking around there as well. And after God Valley, it's possible that most, if not all, of the Rocks Pirates were caught, at least briefly, so Vegapunk could have access to the entire Rocks Pirates DNA buffet. Which of course brings us to the man himself, Rox D. Zebek. According to Sengoku, he has long since departed this world, but has Rox left behind a very unfortunate surprise? Because look, if I was a science man and I was trying to clone the Rocks Pirates, then surely the goal that I, science man, am trying to achieve lies within Rox himself. If you could make a good Rox who does all of the things you say, then surely the world is safe forever. Although the danger would be, what happens if you made another bad Rox? Perhaps a failed Rox clone who has some sort of biological quirk of being unable to sleep, or some sort of strange bodily chemistry that allows he and only he to consume multiple devil fruits. And what if this Rox clone were to join the crew of his former subordinate until he finally acquired the power and knowledge to complete his dream of taking over the world?